Whenever people talk about economic miracles, the Asian tigers immediately spring to mind. But there's one country that almost everyone stubbornly ignores. Take a look at this chart. It shows the explosive growth of South Korea's economy. Now look at Poland. Over the last 30 years, this nation has made such a mind-blowing leap that it's officially earned the title of the European Tiger. Analysts agree, this is the single most successful run in the entire 1,000-year history of the Polish state. But how exactly did they pull it off? Why did an economic powerhouse like Germany attract only $16 billion in foreign investment in 2023? France pull in a measly $8 billion, while global megacorporations pumped nearly $30 billion into Poland. How do we get to a point where this country is currently buying more modern tanks than Germany, France, and the UK combined? And how is a nation whose citizens were flocking to London for blue-collar jobs just 3 decades ago now on track to overtake the UK in wealth? Today, we're going to answer all those questions. But if we really want to pinpoint the exact moment Poland struck gold, we have to rewind to 2018, straight to Donald Trump's Oval Office. That's when Washington kicked off a ruthless trade war with Beijing. Trump slapped on massive tariffs with one clear goal: forcing American companies to bring their factories back home. But big business is driven by cold, hard math. Corporations quickly realized that staying in China was a death wish because of the sanctions. But coming back to the US was simply too expensive due to labor costs. So they started looking for a loophole, eyeing America's most reliable allies. And in Europe, Poland was ally number 1. See the irony here? For Washington, it was the perfect compromise. Better our billions flow to the Poles, who buy our tanks and build our nuclear plants, than end up in Beijing. Trump wanted to revive American manufacturing, but instead, he accidentally became the godfather of the Polish economic miracle. American capital fled China, but instead of landing in New York, it touched down just outside of Wrocław. Now, a lot of people just default to the old assumption that the secret sauce here is cheap labor. But listen, if these multinational giants just wanted cheap hands, they would have shipped their assembly lines to Vietnam or Bangladesh. Tech titans like Intel, Google, and Microsoft aren't building cutting-edge AI testing labs in Vietnam. They're building them in Warsaw. Want to know why? Old Europe fell asleep at the wheel and missed one critical factor: Polish brainpower. While the West got complacent and leaned heavily into soft humanities, Poland gritted its teeth and maintained a hardcore old-school foundation in math and engineering. Just pull up the global HackerRank leaderboard for developers. The top 3 spots are consistently dominated by coders from China, Russia, and Poland. This country is churning out international algorithm Olympiad winners like a well-oiled machine. And this brings us to Poland's other hidden trump card: flawless English. If you look at global English proficiency rankings, you'll notice an interesting trend. Sure, Poland isn't at the absolute top. The wealthiest European nations hold those spots. But let's think like a business owner. Running an IT hub in Amsterdam or Oslo and paying Norwegian salaries is absurdly expensive. Poland is a totally different ballgame. They offer top-tier quality at a genuinely fair price. A Silicon Valley project manager can jump on a call with an engineer in Krakow and debate the architecture of complex neural networks directly. No translators, no lost meaning. In corporate America, that doesn't just save time, it saves millions of dollars in costly communication blunders. And there's another hidden magnet that has been pulling in American corporate cash by the truckload. It's the sheer, undeniable Polish work ethic. Sure, by hardcore global standards, they might play in the middle leagues, but compared to laid-back Western Europe, they are the undisputed champions. Just look at the top 5 European countries by average working hours. Poles work 20% more than Germans. Over a year, that means a Polish employee puts in almost a month and a half to 2 months more work than their counterpart in Amsterdam, Berlin, or Paris. American capital absolutely loves this energy. Stateside, we call it hustle culture. In Poland, it's an unspoken rule known as Polak potrafi. A Pole can do it. No step-by-step instructions? Who cares? We'll figure out a workaround. Need to pull overtime and work the weekend? Pay the bonus, and we'll get the project done on time. For multinational corporations, this created the ultimate combo: Asian-level discipline, genius-level math skills, fluent English, and the reliable, predictable legal framework of the European Union. That's exactly why Poles aren't just assembling cheap IKEA furniture anymore. They've completely taken over the so-called complex assembly sector. batteries for most European electric vehicles, semiconductors, ultra-complex hardware for cloud storage. They've literally turned their country into the Taiwan of Europe. And we are watching the results of this tectonic shift play out in real time. Financial analysts in London are kicking themselves looking at the charts. If these growth rates hold, the average Polish citizen will be wealthier than the average Brit by 2030. And that is the ultimate historical irony. It's a staggering phenomenon, especially when you consider that just 20 or 30 years ago, Polish citizens were leaving in droves for that exact same Britain. They went there to take on heavy, manual labor that paid terribly by British standards, but back then, it felt like a fortune compared to what they could make at home. And just to prove this isn't all just pretty words, let's look at the cold, hard numbers. While the rest of Europe was sinking into an economic depression, Warsaw locked in record-breaking foreign direct investment, nearly $30 billion in a single year. That wasn't just a spike on a spreadsheet. It was the moment global capital officially decided there's a new boss in Central Europe.
And just look at who's joining the party. Global capital no longer views Poland merely as a pool of cheap labor.
American tech giants are snapping up local infrastructure. Microsoft is stepping in with $1 billion investment to build its own digital valley, while Google is transforming Warsaw into its flagship cloud hub for the entire continent. Asian corporations are following suit. South Korea's LG Energy Solution has launched Europe's largest advanced EV battery plant right outside Wrocław. If you want to grasp the true scale of this transformation, just look at what Poland used to sell to the world versus what it's exporting today. Barely 20 years ago, Poland was basically Europe's coal mine and orchard. Their entire export economy leaned on coal, copper, and an endless parade of trucks hauling apples and meat. It was your classic resource-based model: dig it up or grow it, then sell it. But then came a colossal tectonic shift. Today, nearly 30% of all Polish exports have absolutely nothing to do with raw materials. It's the IT sector, high-end business services, and R&D. Poles aren't selling coal anymore. They're selling software code, hyper-complex logistics, and cutting-edge engineering solutions. Right now, over 450,000 people in Poland are working directly for top-tier Fortune 500 tech companies. But the real crown jewel of this economic miracle happened in the energy sector of the future. Quietly, without making a fuss, Poland cornered the electric vehicle market. Today, they rank #1 in Europe and #2 globally, trailing only China, in producing lithium-ion batteries. Nearly 30% of all EV batteries assembled in the European Union roll straight off Polish assembly lines. And for me, this is the most crucial takeaway in this whole story. They aren't clinging to dying industries. They've caught the wave of future technologies that will be exponentially stuffing the Polish treasury for the next 10 to 20 years. Looking at this playbook, I am thoroughly convinced. We are only seeing the tip of the iceberg. The foundation Poland has laid for the coming decades is absolutely massive. Throughout its history, Poland has been brutally partitioned and carved up. So, as soon as real money started flowing into the country, Warsaw looked back at its dark past and decided to invest in the one thing that matters most: physical security. Especially since the aggression of their giant neighbor made it crystal clear: you can never have too much firepower. While a comfortable, complacent Western Europe spent decades kicking back, shrinking their armies, and slashing defense budgets, naively relying on the American security umbrella, Warsaw was quietly stockpiling resources. And what they are buying on the global market right now is making Pentagon generals stand up and applaud, while Berlin is sweating nervously. Let's look at the numbers again. In 2023, Poland spent nearly 4% of its GDP on defense, and going into 2024, that number is pushing 5%. That is an absolute record. Today, the Poles spend a larger share of their economy on their military than even the United States. Just to highlight the gap, mighty Germany has spent years groaning and struggling just to scrape together NATO's bare minimum 2%. And by the way, this is another huge reason why the US is so fond of Poland.
But it's not even the percentages that are shocking. It's the sheer volume.
When a standard European country upgrades its military, they talk about buying 2 or 3 dozen tanks. The Poles think in thousands. They just signed a historic mega deal with South Korea for 1,000 state-of-the-art K2 Black Panther tanks. 1,000 tanks! And that's on top of buying 250 of the heaviest, most heavily armored American Abrams tanks. Throw in nearly 500 HIMARS rocket systems and their Korean equivalents, roughly 100 Apache attack helicopters, and squadrons of F-35 fighter jets. Do the math on that, and you arrive at a terrifyingly impressive result. In the next few years, Poland will field more modern heavy tanks than Germany, France, and the UK, combined. Their ultimate goal is to push their troop count to 300,000, creating the most massive and lethal land army in Europe. And even that isn't the whole story. Remember that Polish pragmatism we talked about? Warsaw isn't just mindlessly throwing cash at foreign hardware. They are twisting the arms of sellers and locking down brutal contract terms. A massive chunk of those Korean tanks and howitzers must be manufactured and serviced right on Polish soil. They are forcing the transfer of military tech. They are building brand new defense plants. They are creating tens of thousands of high-paying jobs. The Polish military-industrial complex is currently transforming into another massive engine for their economy. Warsaw is no longer willing to just be the buffer zone between East and West. It is forging itself into the primary iron shield of Europe.
And in geopolitics, the rule is simple. When you have the most dynamic economy in the region and the biggest army on the continent, you don't ask for a seat at the negotiating table anymore. You sit at the head of it. To sum it all up, here's the bottom line. We are watching history unfold right in front of us. The center of power in Europe is visibly shifting from west to east. While old Europe is living in the past and bogged down in stagnation, Poland is cold-bloodedly taking the lead. They have cutting-edge tech, a powerhouse military, an ironclad energy sector, and a ruthless winner's mentality. Personally, I don't think the question is whether Warsaw will catch up to the former heavyweights of the continent. The only question is exactly when they'll start dictating the rules. What do you guys think about this Polish phenomenon? Let me know in the comments, drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.